Welcome back to the Crypto's Key conversation. So there's a lot going on right now, and I just wanted to come over here and really just take a moment of silence for all the families and all their loved ones out there and everything that's going on in Ukraine. I just wanted to take a moment of silence for them to show them some love and support. With all that being said, there is so much happening, and I briefly talked a little bit about it in our previous videos, but there's just so many negative narratives that's going on right now. And obviously, one thing that I was talking about in the past couple of weeks was whenever this whole invasion talk came about and all the articles started coming out and all the news media outlets were covering it. I was kind of skeptical about, okay, what's real and what's accurate and what is the narrative that they're feeding us and what's true. Obviously, we know now that this invasion is a real deal. So from like last night all the way up till about 1 o'clock in the morning, I kind of stayed up trying to track what was going on. There was a bunch of video footage of like bombings, missiles going in the air. There's been reports about drones, helicopters being shot down, and potential captures of civilian people kind of fighting back in regards of the Ukraine and Russian tensions, and Russia taking over airports, and the loss of civilian lives as long as soldiers, also with soldiers' lives. And this is just from the reports that I've been getting, without true verification of the exact numbers, which I don't have. I don't know that, but I know that this is a serious matter, and I know earlier this morning we were down heavily when it came to our markets. Obviously, we are up. We were almost down 10%, with Bitcoin being down in the 34,000 plus range. But obviously, what's going on with these geopolitical issues that we're dealing with, even outside of just the United States inflation and stuff with Jerome Powell and the Fed, it's causing a lot of turmoil within all markets. Coming over here, let's quickly look at CNBC real quick. Let's see what we're looking at. So looking at the U.S., so obviously this shows us we were in the red, but like obviously it shows us a little bit in the green as of now. Nasdaq up 3.34%, S&P 500 1.5%. Looking at crypto here. Oops, let's go back to the top. Looking at crypto here, we have some red and we have some green. So obviously we're up more, like I just talked about, we're up more than we were earlier this morning. But the point is what's going on is a big deal. So I just quickly wanted to talk about it and I wanted to show you like how this variable is impacting the markets, especially the crypto market. So coming over here, we'll look at the Bitcoin chart real quick, because Bitcoin is the mothership of crypto, the umbrella here. So whatever happens to Bitcoin, we tend to see a ripple effect within the rest of the market. So when Bitcoin got hit, we came down. Look how low we got. We got down to 34.6. And I'm sure other exchanges may have a lower number, but according to CoinGecko, we are at 34.6, and now we're having a little bounce up. So obviously, that's a little bit of positive. Who knows how long that's going to hold, because we still have the tensions going on with this Ukraine and Russia invading Ukraine stuff. So just a quick update. We're going to kind of go through what's going on with Biden's sanctions on Russia, because originally there was a certain amount of sanctions that were applied. It was kind of like they were taking the kind of like soft approach, with respect to me not really understanding that approach, but they were kind of taking a more like gradual approach to adding sanctions to Russia based on their actions. So as of now, this was today at 1:52 p.m. This was reported by CNBC. It says Biden vows wider sanctions on Russia in effort to cut Moscow off from the global economy. So looking at the key points here, it says Biden says Thursday that the U.S. will introduce a new wave of sanctions against Russia in a broad effort to isolate Moscow from the global economy. The president said that the totality of the penalties will target trillions in assets, include restrictions against Russian banks, including VTB Bank and Cyberbank. The White House has also authorized additional troops to be sanctioned in Germany as NATO allies look to bolster defenses in Europe. So coming down here, just to look at these key points down here. So it says, this is a quote from Biden. He says, today I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose a severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. I just spoke with the G7 leaders this morning, and we are in full and total agreement. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy. Will limit their ability to do that. On a daily basis, Russian financial institutions conduct about 46 billion worth of foreign exchange transactions globally, 80% of which are in US dollars. The vast majority of those transactions will now be disrupted. So coming down here, it says our forces are not and will not be engaged in a conflict with Russia and Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies. We will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power. So obviously, Biden taking things a lot more serious, adding more sanctions to, Putin and Russia for their actions of invading Ukraine. Obviously, I pray for all the families and all their loved ones out there, the Ukraine soldiers. It's crazy that this is really happening, but it's here. So I just wanted to briefly talk about it. So obviously, there's been some talk about, obviously Russia went from banning, Bitcoin and crypto, kind of taking that approach to completely 180 and trying to make Bitcoin and crypto, legal currency out there in their country. So now we have this article from Cointelegraph that's kind of talking about crypto could bypass President Biden's devastating sanctions on Russian banks and elites. So it says, there's a quote here that says, if a wealthy individual is concerned that their accounts may be frozen due to sanctions, they could simply hold their wealth in Bitcoin. So this is a reality, especially if Russia's trying to take that approach of making Bitcoin and cryptocurrency legal currency out in Russia. They can utilize that to, bypass the so-called US dollar and these sanctions to, operate and continue operations, per se, from my understanding. So we have a perfect example of what's going on in Canada. We covered this in our other shows that we had in regards of the trucker blockades and how the Russian government had put immediate action that was freezing assets and access to their money, their bank accounts. If you were a part of funding or a part of the crowdfunding for these trucker blockades, that caused a lot of uproar and a lot of concerns, and then all it did was drive, those citizens and those groups of people to crypto, because you can't stop blockchain and crypto. So this is a perfect example. It's like, okay, if you're going to throw up all these sanctions, Putin and Russia is just going to be like, okay, we're going to utilize Bitcoin or, some sort of digital asset to bypass that. So in this article, they're saying the sanctions announced by United States President Joe Biden in response to Russia's attack on Ukraine did not include cutting the country off from the payments on the SWIFT system or cryptocurrency transfers. However, speaking to reports on Thursday, Biden announced that the economic measures would not extend to cutting Russia off from the SWIFT network, a payment system used across the world. In response to European officials, leaving this option available to Russians and seemingly being unable to block cryptocurrency transfers could reportedly mitigate the impact of any sanctions levied by the United States and its allies. Literally what I just said. I mean, that's quite honestly, that's why, a lot of us value the decentralization when it comes to cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And they can utilize that, to continue to do what they do and to bypass, like I said, bypass the US dollar and the United States sanctions. So we'll kind of keep track on kind of what's going on in that regard. But now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of, devastating stuff going on in Ukraine with the Russian invasion. Now to talk a little bit about another variable that could be that's been affecting our markets, keeping us in this extreme fear range, is the talks of inflation. And I wanted to cover these two videos from Squawk Box talking about inflation. And this is Mike Novogratz on this CNBC interview here. So let's take a listen in.
The camp, wait and see. But
which one are you, Mike? Are you the old guy or the young guy?
Believe it or not, I've become the damn old guy, which really bums me out. It's funny. I started Wall Street April 1st, 1989. 10 years were at 9%. Most people that started 10 years after me, never saw rates that high. And again, I'm not saying rates can get back to 9%, but I think inflation could be harder to put back in the bottle.
So what are you doing in terms of, to the extent you have an equity portfolio, what are you doing? And what are you doing when it comes to Bitcoin and some of your cryptos, which seem to be trading like equities?
Listen, we are rangy in crypto. I think that the only good side that crypto has right now is there's an adoption cycle. People that want to buy it, that want to buy into Web3, that see what's happening in the NFT space, and even want to buy into Bitcoin, because a lot of people don't think Powell will be able to pull this off. And so they think this is temporary. So we kind of see 30,000, 50,000 range in Bitcoin, and you should lighten up at the top of the range and increase at the bottom of the range. In stocks, I'm selling rallies. I think we're going to end the year lower than we are here. And mostly I'm hedging everything by trying to be as short rates as I can.
So that's Mike Novogratz' take on kind of what's going on with inflation and his opinion on it. So let's come over here. We're going to take a look at what this gentleman, Mohammed, said about the same thing when it comes to what's going on with the interest rate hikes, where they're talking about, oh, we're going to have, 9 interest rate hikes and it's going to be 50 basis points. He kind of gives his perspective on it. Let's take a listen in.
What would you anticipate the next move being from the Fed in that case?
So this takes 50 basis points completely off the table. It takes the 8, 9 hikes that a lot of people were talking about for this year off the table, and thankfully so, because you heard me say on your show that I didn't think the U.S. economy could accommodate and live with such slamming of the brakes of monetary policy. It means the Fed is going to have to be even more careful, and it's going to have to tolerate higher inflation. Nobody wanted to be here, but we were already far away from the world of first best in terms of monetary policy, and now we're going to get even further away. So we're going to have a very sort of unsatisfactory situation when it comes to inflation and when it comes to growth, unfortunately.
Mohammed,
So that's his position on it, and quite honestly, I agree, especially with what's going on with Russia invading Ukraine and all that stuff that we're all dealing with. Quite honestly, I'm curious to see if they will take a lesser approach or a more dovish approach to kind of what's going on. And I guess we're going to find out in March. We covered, I think we have 7 meetings left, and the next one being in March. Obviously, we know that there's going to be some sort of interest rate hike, but is it going to be 50 basis point? I don't see it happening, but we'll see. Now, obviously, there's a lot of negativity going around, but I just want to cover some positivities because there's still a lot of positivities going on as well. So coming over here, Pomp had put up a pretty cool tweet. It says FTS just announced that they have given $25 to every single Ukrainian user on their platform, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know how many Ukrainians actually utilize the platform, but that's awesome that FTX is actually doing that. Coming over here, Bitcoin Magazine says over 360,000 in Bitcoin has been donated to the Ukrainian army in just one day. So that's absolutely massive. Just to see the support coming from the Bitcoin and crypto community, that's absolutely massive. I love to see the just how decentralized we are as a community, as a crypto community. All people from all different walks of life, coming from different backgrounds, different, social economic classes, but just coming together for a common goal to see that there's wrongdoing in this world and to come together and fight the good fight. That is what it's all about. I love that positivity. Coming over here, this is from Cointelegraph, says Bitcoin's price spiked to 39,000 leads traders to say the panic is over for a few days. So I brought this in here because I'm just not quite sure that, we should kind of, just think, oh, the panic is over for a few days. There's so much uncertainty that I still feel like there's going to be a lot of volatility. And as you can see, obviously, you have probably had a wick up to 39,000. But coming over here, if we take a look, I mean, we're still, we wicked up to almost 39,000, but coming down, I think there's still going to be a lot of volatility. Who knows how things are going to progress when it comes to this invasion and what's going to be the next outcome. So I would just say, protect yourself. I'm going to hold strong. Obviously right now, when it comes to accumulations, I'm being very wary about my accumulation process, holding on the cash that we have and just kind of waiting and seeing kind of what's going to happen with what's going on right now. It says global financial markets and crypto markets were plummeted over the past 24 hours as the invasion of Ukraine and Russian forces sent investors scrambling. Sell-off took place across most asset classes. So yeah, that's what I was talking about. It was pretty nuts to see it all happen in real time. Coming over here, this is another positive from Cointelegraph. It says Mexican senator to propose crypto law. We need Bitcoin as legal tender. Indra Kempis, a senator representing the Nuevo Leon state in Mexico, is working on a crypto bill based on El Salvador's Bitcoin law. Here goes some quotes. We need Bitcoin to be legal tender in Mexico because if it is not so, if we do not make that decision as El Salvador did, it is very difficult to take action. That's Indra, I'm assuming this is Indra here, right here, kind of speaking on it. So that's a positive. I mean, obviously we see a lot of countries and a lot of people kind of taking the El Salvador approach to making Bitcoin legal tender, which is absolutely massive. Just remember, a lot of it's Bitcoin legal tender, but you got to understand that Bitcoin being the number one, the first, the mothership or the umbrella or whatever you want to call it, Bitcoin's obviously it can lead the way all it wants. It just brings exposure to the entire crypto market. We're one market cap, $1.77 trillion market cap. So if Bitcoin's getting attention, it's literally going to be a trickle or a ripple effect to the rest of the crypto market. That's absolutely massive. So I just want to end on this one. It says Tonga's timeline for Bitcoin as legal tender in BTC mining with volcanoes. The tiny Pacific nation of Tonga could have Bitcoin as legal tender by Q2, quarter two, and Bitcoin mining by quarter three of 2023. Coming down here goes some quotes. It says, let's say the legal tender bill is passed in beginning to mid-October. After this, the bill goes to the palace office for 3 to 4 weeks. His Majesty will either give or not give royal assent by mid-November. Coming out here says conservatively, the earliest date realistically is the beginning to the middle of February as the activation date. It could be much, much earlier if the last 3 steps are rushed through, which I've seen before. So, there we go. Tonga jumping in, full, really jumping into the deep end. That's absolutely massive, and it's a positivity. So, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of extreme fear within our market in general, but within all markets. And, like I said, I just want to pay, respects and pray for, everyone that's, involved into this Russian and Ukraine invasion. Pray for their families and loved ones, and just send positive vibes their way. And just know that, we're dealing with a lot of stuff within our market, a lot of negativity, but in the grand scheme of things, human life is more precious and more important than any of these little things that we're dealing with. So to see kind of what's going on, it's devastating. And I just hope that things, clear up and become more in a positive light and settle and end. Let's just say that. I just hope things end very quickly. So with all that being said, stay safe out there, stay strong, be safe.